Welcome back. Thanks for staying on. Insiders say the deployment of the SANDF at some of Eskom power plants won't have a major impact in tackling sabotage. It comes as the utility says it's aware that some contractors are doing this to secure more work. Solidarity's head of communications, Morne Malan, joins us now for more on this. Morne, good evening, and thank you for your time.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity.
We hear this even today in some publications that at least 25 arrests have been made at Eskom around sabotage and so on and so forth. Tell me, is this because of the work that the SANDF is doing, or how are these arrests actually coming about?
Look, on the one hand, yes, we do have to acknowledge that the deployment of the SANDF is positive in the sense that it is a recognition of the immense harm that's being caused by sabotage at the power utility. But the fact of the matter is that the military and the defense force, they have a very limited role in the current scope of the issues. The fact is that we don't have the issues at Eskom are not of individuals jumping over walls at power stations. They are individuals using their access cards to go through the gates at these power stations. So the issue is mainly internal, and for internal issues with regard to sabotage, the military are of very little help. Those arrests that have been made have been caused by the investigative units brought into place by Eskom themselves, but the fact of the matter is they can't carry the burden of procuring this sort of intelligence on their own. We actually need the police force to set up a special investigative unit to ensure that there is investigation taking place, there are arrests taking place, and criminal charges are being pressed for such arrests.
Yeah. So you're saying, by and large, up until this point, we've been relying on a small investigative unit within the power plants themselves. How limited is this capacity? What are we talking about?
Look, they can only do so much, and they have been, to a large extent, relied on private actors in this regard. The fact is that what we're seeing, the sabotage taking place, is that the saboteurs have a high level of technical expertise. They know exactly which light bulbs to break, where to throw a wrench in. They know exactly where to with minimal effort to cause the most amount of harm with regard to the machinery at power stations. Now, the Defence Force can't police the employees of Eskom themselves or contractors of Eskom themselves, and that's why Eskom has had to take it upon themselves to investigate their own personnel. And unfortunately, they can only do so much as a power utility. It's not their job to do that sort of work, and it's actually now the responsibility of SAPS to come to the table.
Yeah. Morne, we hear anecdotally, for example, today we're going into stage 4 load shedding permanently throughout the week. This is because another unit has broken down in Malan, another unit has broken down in Dubai, in Kendo, whatever it is. And we hear this story over and over again because we seem to hear that it's being repaired and then it's back online, and then 3 days later, it is offline again, and it's being repaired again. This has led others to say this is because there is sabotage there. Because I don't understand why you would fix a unit that you're expecting to break again in 3 days. But maybe you will tell me here. What is the extent of this sabotage? How does it contribute to the current energy crisis that we are facing?
I think it's unquantifiable at the moment. Every indication is that there are individuals within Eskom who have two main motivations. On the one hand, there are people within Eskom, either employees of Eskom or contractors at Eskom, who wish to put pressure on management. The fact is, management has taken quite a strong role, a strong stance against corruption. And they're attempting to use sabotage and the disruption caused by sabotage in order to change leadership at Eskom. That's the one motivation. The other motivation is corruption in and of itself. And that is, lots of times you have contractors within Eskom who do purposefully sabotage some of the instruments at Eskom so that they can receive contracts, or so that individuals linked to them can receive contracts to repair the damage done by those individuals. So at the moment, I think that the issue is systemic. It is across the entire country, and it is one of the major risks currently at the power utility, and police do have to treat it as such.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're saying the issue is systemic, is that widespread and is at a national level, there is, of course, some kind of thinking to say, instead of, for example, we have a nationwide approach, why don't we have a station-by-station approach where a station manager takes charge of that particular unit and does what is necessary. In other words, be it bringing in the necessary investigators, be it bringing in the necessary monitoring devices, whatever it is that needs to be done, instead of having this bigger look at, we'll need to address all the plants, let's zoom in on each plant and that management and the leadership at that particular plant. Do you think that could be a strategy that would be achievable?
Well, that is the strategy currently in a loose form being followed at Eskom, and unfortunately, that has meant that even some of our members have received death threats because there are so many individuals and groups who enmeshed in these activities that it's actually dangerous at present. As a station manager, it's one of the more dangerous jobs in South Africa, because simply trying to cut off the pipeline of corruption is one of the most dangerous jobs at the moment. So that is the approach currently being taken by Eskom, but the fact of the matter is that Eskom cannot bear burden on their own, and it is now upon various other government agencies, particularly the South African Police Force, to also ensure that it is treated as a high priority crime, and to ensure that our most competent people are employed at or deployed at police power stations, because this is the biggest issue in South Africa at the moment, and all of our resources should be allocated towards solving exactly this issue.
Yeah. If we do a turn back to where we started, would you say then, therefore, the deployment of the SANDF is currently, although helpful to an extent, but a wasted resource?
Yes. Like I said, the role which the SANDF can play at power stations is extremely limited. They can keep out outsiders, but all indications are that the threats aren't coming from outside, they're coming from inside. Where they could have played a larger role is last year, when, under the guise of industrial action, there was wide-scale sabotage from outside, externally, and to disastrous effect. Unfortunately, despite the calls at that point, there was a sluggishness to call in the SANDF, and where they can still now play a role is particularly with regard to the transmission and distribution cables, where there's sabotage taking place outside of the power station. But unfortunately, that's not where the SANDF are currently deployed, and that's not the reason that they've been deployed at this point. So, no, unfortunately, the SANDF, and in their current role, is money not being well spent. But on the other hand, at least it's a positive indication that we have recognized at the moment something which, unfortunately, due to seeming persistent lack of urgency on the part of Eskom and on the part of the governing party, that has also taken a while to recognize and to address.
Morne, Malan, appreciate your time. Let's leave it there for tonight. Much appreciated. Thanks for coming on. Head of Communications for Union Solidarity there, Morne Malan.